music right here and right here. And we just would laugh, have a good time.
For decades, fans only saw the perfect harmony, the smooth moves, and the timeless soul of Gladys Knight and the Pips. But now, at 80, Gladys finally breaks her silence, revealing the truth behind the scenes. In her own words, she says, "I used the Pips." What does she mean? Was it strategy, survival, or something deeper? Let's uncover the story behind the voice, the group, and the legacy that changed soul music forever. Origins of the Pips and early musical roots. Before she became known as the Empress of Soul, before the Grammy Awards and worldwide tours, Gladys Knight was just a little girl with a big voice growing up in Atlanta, Georgia. Born on May 28, 1944, she was the daughter of Merrill Woodlow Knight and Sarah Elizabeth. Gladys was raised in a warm, loving home alongside her siblings, Brenda, Bubba, and David. The family was close-knit and deeply rooted in faith and music. That's where her journey really began. From the very start, music was everywhere in the Knight household. Her parents were active members of their church choir, and that environment filled their home with harmony and inspiration. Little Gladys watched and listened, soaking in the spirit of gospel music. It wasn't long before she joined in. By the time she was just 4 years old, Gladys was already performing solos at the Mount Moriah Baptist Church. The congregation was stunned. A voice so powerful, so full of emotion, coming from someone so small, it was unforgettable. Gladys didn't just have talent, she had something special. By age 8, she was winning awards at local talent competitions. People could already see that she was destined for something greater. But no one could have imagined that a simple birthday party would be the starting point of a legendary music group. It happened during her brother Bubba's 10th birthday celebration. The family had planned a fun party with music for dancing, but suddenly the record player broke. The music stopped, and the room went quiet. That's when Gladys and her siblings decided to do something unexpected. Together with their cousins, William Guest and Eleanor Guest, they stood up and began to sing. No microphones, no music, just their voices. What happened next stunned everyone in the room. Their harmony was electric. The guests couldn't believe how naturally their voices blended together. In that moment, it was clear. They had something unique, something that could go far beyond birthday parties and church performances. Their mother saw it too. After that impromptu performance, she suggested they form an official singing group. And just like that, the Pips were born. The group took its name from their cousin James "Pip" Woods, who was also one of their early supporters. From day one, it was a family affair. Bubba handled a lot of the group's early business, while Gladys, with her rich and soulful voice, stood front and center. Brenda Knight and Eleanor Guest rounded out the original lineup, but over time the group's members shifted until it solidified with Gladys, Bubba, William Guest, and Edward Patton. They started off performing at church functions and local events around Atlanta. Their style was polished, even at a young age. The family's musical discipline, mixed with a strong church background, gave their performances a maturity far beyond their years. Soon, they began entering talent shows all over Georgia and the South. Gladys often stole the spotlight, but the Pips added energy, rhythm, and harmony that set them apart from other groups. Their big break came when they won a televised talent contest called the Original Amateur Hour. That win gave them exposure and encouraged them to pursue music more seriously. They started recording in the late 1950s. Their first hit, "Every Beat of My Heart." The song was recorded in 1961 and caught the attention of record labels and radio stations. Although Gladys joked years later that she wouldn't reveal her age when the song came out, the truth was she was still a teenager when the group first found real success. They didn't know that one day the Pips would rise to fame, but that journey wasn't free from hardships and conflicts. Let's tell you how it all began. Rise to fame with the Motown years and industry conflicts. By the time the 1960s rolled in, Gladys Knight and her family group had already built a small but strong reputation in the music scene. What began with church songs and local talent shows had now turned into recording sessions and hit singles. But the real game changer came in 1966, when they signed with one of the biggest record labels in the world, Motown Records. It should have been a dream come true, and in some ways, it was. But it also became one of the most difficult chapters in their journey. The group had officially become known as Gladys Knight and the Pips. It was a big moment. Having Gladys's name in front showed how much her voice stood out, but it didn't mean the rest of the group faded into the background. The Pips, her brother Bubba Knight, and their cousins were known for their smooth choreography, sharp stage moves, and tight harmonies. While Gladys poured her soul into the lead vocals, the Pips added rhythm, style, and class that made their performances unforgettable. They were a true team, but when they joined Motown, they were walking into a world filled with stars and just as many power struggles. Motown wasn't just a record label, it was a music empire. And at the center of that empire was Berry Gordy, the founder and kingmaker. He had built the careers of some of the biggest names in music: the Supremes, Stevie Wonder, the Temptations, and more. For new artists, this meant both opportunity and danger. You had to shine, but not too much. Gladys Knight knew this better than anyone. Soon after signing, tensions began to grow, not just with the label, but with other artists. One name stood out in particular: Diana Ross, the lead singer of the Supremes and Berry Gordy's clear favorite. It became obvious to Gladys that Diana wasn't just another singer at Motown. She was the center of attention. Everything revolved around her: press, tours, and special treatment. One incident left a lasting mark. Gladys and the Pips had been invited to open for the Supremes on tour. It was a golden opportunity, a chance to prove themselves in front of larger audiences, and they did. Every night, they gave their all. Gladys's powerful voice, the Pips' polished dance routines, it all clicked. The crowd loved them, maybe a little too much. Not long after, their road manager came to Gladys with a message. Berry Gordy wanted to speak to her. She was hopeful, thinking maybe he had good news, but instead, the conversation crushed her. He said, "Well, I see you out there upsetting my act," Gladys later recalled. At first, she didn't understand. "What?" she asked. "You're giving a little hard time, right?" he added. That's when it hit her. They were doing too well, and it was bothering Diana Ross. Without warning, Berry Gordy told them to pack up and go home. They were being kicked off the tour, just like that. No explanation, no second chance. Gladys tried to stay strong. She told him, "Well, Mr. Gordy, that's not what we're about, you know. We're just doing our show." But it didn't matter. The decision was made. Gladys was heartbroken. They had worked so hard, only to be pushed aside because someone else felt threatened. That meant that we weren't supposed to be doing as well as we were doing, she later said. It was a painful truth. In the music world, talent wasn't always enough. Politics, jealousy, and favoritism often had the final say. Years later, Gladys opened up more about her beef with Diana Ross. In interviews and in her tell-all book, she made it clear. Diana was never warm to her. "I'm not a liar," Gladys said. "I know that she wasn't the happiest with me." While she stopped short of calling Diana mean, the message was clear. There was tension, and it ran deep. When Gladys Knight and the Pips made the bold decision to leave Motown Records in the early 1970s, many people wondered if they were making a mistake. It was time for a fresh start, and they found it at Buddha Records. Let's tell you about this groundbreaking moment that changed everything. Success with Buddha Records and musical peak. The move to Buddha Records in 1973 marked a major turning point in the group's career. With new management and greater creative control, they were finally given the freedom to explore their sound and tell their stories their own way. It didn't take long for that creative spark to turn into a massive hit. That same year, the group released a song that would change their legacy forever: "Midnight Train to Georgia." This soulful ballad about dreams, heartbreak, and choosing love over fame struck a chord with listeners around the world. It became an instant classic, soaring to #1 on both the Billboard Hot 100 and the R&B charts. The emotional depth of the song, combined with Gladys's powerful vocals, made it unforgettable. It also earned them a Grammy Award, solidifying their place in music history. But while Gladys was the voice that led the charge, the Pips played a crucial role in shaping their success during this period. Bubba Knight, William Guest, and Edward Patton didn't just provide background vocals, they added personality, rhythm, and a storytelling touch that brought each song to life. Their harmonies echoed Gladys's lines like a conversation, offering support, reflection, and sometimes even a little humor. At Buddha Records, the group released a string of other successful singles like I've Got to Use My Imagination, Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me, and on and on. Each song showcased Gladys's emotional range and the Pips' trademark harmonies. The group was no longer trying to fit into someone else's mold. They had found their own identity, and the world was finally listening. With this newfound freedom, the group dynamic began to shift in positive ways. They had more input in song choices, arrangements, and performance styles. The pressure and favoritism they once experienced at Motown were gone. Under new management, their ideas were valued, and their bond grew even stronger. Gladys and the Pips weren't just co-workers. They were family, and their trust in each other was clear in every note they sang. International success soon followed. Though they had always been popular in the United States, their Buddha-era hits began reaching audiences overseas, especially in the United Kingdom, where their music climbed the charts years after its US release. Their soulful style crossed borders and spoke to people everywhere, proving that great music has no limits. With fame came many internal tensions and conflicts that eventually led to fractures and separation. Let's see how Gladys Knight began her journey of going solo. Group tensions and going solo. As the 1970s came to an end, legal issues began to disrupt the group's smooth path. Record label disagreements and management problems created friction. This led to a temporary separation between Gladys and the Pips. During this time, the group members began to record music independently of each other. It wasn't an official split yet, but it signaled a shift in how they worked together. The unity they once had was starting to fade. Gladys, still determined to create music, signed a new deal with Columbia Records. She reunited with the Pips under this label, and together they released a few albums. These projects were handled with more professional polish. They teamed up with well-known producers Nicholas Ashford and Valerie Simpson for their first two Columbia albums. The music was soulful, sharp, and beautifully arranged. Their hit, Save the Overtime for Me, became their first #1 R&B single in years, proving they still had magic. But even with continued success, the bond was weakening. Internal disputes started to rise, particularly between Gladys and her brother Bubba Knight, who also managed group affairs. Gladys began to feel that Bubba was using the group's reputation and music not just for their shared success, but to advance his own business interests. She felt betrayed, especially since everything had always been rooted in family and trust. These feelings were hard to ignore. While the group continued to perform and tour, tension simmered beneath the surface. Gladys later admitted in interviews that things became difficult between her and the Pips. Though they loved each other, business and fame had complicated their relationship. The chemistry they once had on stage didn't always reflect what was happening backstage. In 1988, after a successful tour, the Pips decided to retire. It marked the official end of one of the most beloved groups in soul music history. Gladys, on the other hand, wasn't ready to stop. She was stepping into a new chapter, her solo career. It was a bittersweet goodbye. For years, Gladys had shared the spotlight with her group, blending her voice with theirs to create timeless music. But she was also ready to stand alone, to speak her truth in her own way. In later interviews, she explained that she had always used the Pips in the best way possible, not to overpower them, but to enhance the music, to build layers of harmony and storytelling that reached deep into the listener's heart. Apart from the struggles with the Pips and internal conflicts, Gladys Knight also had to face deep personal challenges that tested her strength off stage. Let's tell you about that. Personal struggles with love, loss, and addiction. Her first real taste of adult responsibility came when she was still just a teenager. At the tender age of 16, Gladys became pregnant. Rather than hiding or running from the situation, she made the brave choice to marry her high school sweetheart, a young Atlanta musician named James "Jimmy" Newman, in 1960. Their love was young, hopeful, and full of dreams, but life didn't follow a perfect script. Sadly, she suffered a miscarriage shortly after their marriage, but her heartbreak was followed by joy with the birth of their first child, James Gaston Newman III. Gladys tried to hold everything together: her music, her marriage, and her family, but things became more complicated as time went on. While she was climbing the ladder of fame, Jimmy was falling into the depths of harmful substance addiction. By the time Gladys was 20, her husband was deeply hooked on substances, and his addiction pulled him away from the family. Eventually, he made the painful decision to leave them behind. It was a devastating blow for Gladys, who was now forced to raise their son alone. During this time, she welcomed another child with Jimmy, Kenya Maria Newman, their daughter. But their marriage had already broken beyond repair. Even though they lived apart for years, Gladys didn't rush into divorce. It wasn't until 1973, after 7 years of separation, that she officially ended the marriage. Just a few years later, Jimmy Newman passed away, adding a tragic end to their painful love story. Gladys showed incredible strength through it all. Despite being a single mother with a growing career, she made the decision to temporarily step away from the music business. While the Pips continued touring, Gladys stayed home to care for her children. Her family always came first, even before fame. In 1974, Gladys found love again and married Barry Hankerson, a music producer who managed major stars like Toni Braxton and Aaliyah. Together, they had a son named Shanga Ali Hankerson in 1976. But this new relationship brought its own share of struggles. The couple divorced in 1979. If that wasn't enough, Gladys faced every parent's nightmare. Her son was kidnapped at just 3 years old. In a desperate attempt to bring him home safely, she reportedly spent nearly $1 million. Thankfully, she got him back, but the trauma of that moment stayed with her forever. It showed the world just how far she was willing to go for her children. In 1995, she gave love one more try. She married motivational speaker Les Brown, a man known for his powerful words and uplifting speeches. At first, it seemed like a perfect match. Gladys even called it a dream come true. Les encouraged her to write her life story and helped her land a $5 million book advance for her autobiography. But despite his ability to inspire others, Gladys later revealed that Les didn't know how to truly give in a relationship. Just 2 years later, he filed for divorce, ending yet another chapter of love that started with hope but ended in heartache. As if relationship struggles weren't enough, Gladys faced another battle that many didn't see coming: a gambling addiction. For more than 10 years, she quietly battled a problem that began innocently but grew dangerous quickly. She was introduced to blackjack by a fellow musician, and what started as fun turned into something deeper. Soon, she was spending more time in casinos than at home. The casinos became her escape. The dealers and pit bosses felt like family, and the special attention she received made her feel important, at least for a while. But the addiction had serious consequences. On different nights, she lost $45,000 to $60,000. The money wasn't the only cost. She was also losing time with her children. One day in the 1980s, she woke up late after a long night of gambling and realized she had forgotten to take her son to school. That moment was a wake-up call. Gladys knew something had to change. She began attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings, where she slowly began to rebuild her life and regain control. It wasn't easy, but she fought her way back, for herself and for her family. Through it all, Gladys never gave up. Every heartbreak, every loss, every misstep taught her something. She once said, If we didn't have those things in our life, how would we learn anything? Her story is more than a tale of musical success. It's a story of survival, a story of a woman who fell, stood back up, and kept walking with grace. Gladys Knight didn't just sing about strength, she lived it. Apart from heartbreak and her battle with addiction, Gladys Knight had to face many other family scandals that came to test her resilience like never before. Let's take a closer look. Family scandals, legal battles, and betrayals. After her painful divorce from her first husband, Gladys married music producer Barry Hankerson in 1974. Together, they had a son named Shanga Ali Hankerson in 1976. Hankerson was well known in the music industry, managing big stars like Toni Braxton and Aaliyah. At first, it seemed like a good match, but their marriage soon became rocky, especially when it came to parenting and control. When they divorced in 1979, they entered into a bitter custody battle over their son, Shanga. The emotional toll of that legal fight left scars. In the middle of it all, their son struggled with the stress and developed an eating disorder. Gladys fought hard to protect her child, and in the end, she won custody. But the damage done by that battle would echo for years to come. As Shanga grew up, he seemed to follow in his parents' footsteps, at least at first. In 1997, he opened a restaurant called Gladys Knight's Chicken and Waffles, using his mother's name and reputation to attract customers. The business started in Atlanta and quickly expanded to Washington, D.C. At first, it looked like a success story, but behind the scenes, problems were brewing. Between 2012 and 2016, Shanga failed to withhold and pay payroll taxes for his restaurant employees. The IRS later revealed that more than $1 million in taxes had gone unpaid. This wasn't just bad bookkeeping, it was a federal crime. In court, prosecutors stated that these taxes were supposed to fund essential programs like Social Security and Medicare. As the legal case unfolded, it became clear that Shanga was in deep trouble. Eventually, Shanga pleaded guilty, and a judge sentenced him to 2 years in prison. He was also ordered to pay full restitution of over $1 million. It was a devastating scandal, not just for Shanga, but for Gladys as well. Although she wasn't involved in running the restaurant, the business carried her name. Her public image took a hit, and she knew she had to act. Gladys made the decision to remove her name from the business. But that move sparked another round of conflict. Shanga fought back and claimed his mother didn't have the mental capacity to cancel their licensing agreement. He even went as far as to suggest that Gladys might be suffering from Alzheimer's disease, attempting to use it against her in court. It was a shocking betrayal. From her own son, Gladys firmly denied those claims and stood her ground. She stated that Shanga's lawyer was trying to blackmail and embarrass her by threatening to make private health information public. The court sided with Gladys, and she successfully terminated the licensing agreement. It was a painful legal battle, not only because of the public attention, but because it involved her own child. As if that wasn't enough, Gladys had to endure another deep loss. Her older son from her first marriage, Jimmy Newman III, passed away unexpectedly at the young age of 36 due to heart failure. Jimmy had once managed Gladys's career and was known to be a beloved member of the family. His death came as a terrible blow. In the middle of all the lawsuits, betrayals, and emotional stress, Gladys stayed strong. She kept her faith, focused on her family, and never stopped working. Through it all, she showed that resilience isn't just about surviving. It's about standing tall when everything around you is falling apart. Despite the public image of success and stardom, Gladys Knight's private life has been marked by challenges that could have crushed anyone else. From fighting for her son in a custody battle, to being dragged into legal scandals she never caused, to grieving the untimely death of another child, Gladys has lived through it all. After years of personal and professional struggles, Gladys Knight finally decided to share her honest thoughts about the Pips. Let's see what she has to say. Gladys Knight's thoughts about the Pips, legacy, and redemption. After years of personal and professional struggles, Gladys Knight finally opened up about the people who stood beside her for decades. Her family group, the Pips. They were more than just backup singers. They were her cousins, her brother, her team, and sometimes her tension. In her own words, she admitted, "I used the Pips, but not in a negative way." She meant it truthfully and respectfully. She used their unique energy, their harmony, their stage presence, to create something that touched hearts around the world. Gladys always saw the Pips as essential to her sound. While her voice led the way, it was the Pips who added texture, rhythm, and depth. Their choreographed steps, their clever responses, and the emotional balance they brought made their music feel like a conversation. But their relationship wasn't always smooth. In the later years, Gladys admitted there was bad blood, especially with her brother Bubba Knight. She felt he was exploiting their musical brand for business purposes. The trust that held the group together began to crack. After a final successful tour in 1988, the Pips retired, and Gladys officially started her solo career. It was painful, but necessary. As she once said, "We realized we were both young and going through a difficult time back then." They eventually made peace, but it marked a new chapter for Gladys, one she walked alone. Still, she never denied how much the Pips meant to her. In interviews, she fondly recalled how protective they were. "They considered me one of the boys," she said. "They were ferocious when it came to guarding me." Their bond, rooted in family and music, was deep. They had grown up together through churches, talent shows, and record studios. And their harmony came not just from rehearsals, but from love. After the group split, Gladys moved into a phase of reflection and healing. In 2001, she married William McDowell, a man 14 years younger, who soon became her rock. "He's the love of my life," she said. "He's my manager. He does the business side, and I do the creative." Together, they found balance. William supported her emotionally and professionally, and they even worked together on charity projects and music. While many couples struggle to mix business and personal life, for them, it worked. "We see eye to eye," Gladys explained. "He's amazing." Gladys's healing journey also led her to a deeper faith. Though raised Baptist, she converted to Catholicism in 1997 and later joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, inspired by her children. Faith gave her new purpose. She even led the Saints Unified Voices, a gospel choir that performed at major events across the U.S. Her joy was visible. "It really was," she said about her church role, "and we kind of grew together." Leading the choir let her reconnect with her gospel roots and with her community in a powerful way. Gladys never fully retired, despite many farewell tours. In 2009, she launched a major tour in the UK, even bringing Tito Jackson and Dionne Warwick as guests. The production was big and bright, with animations, lights, and memories. But it wasn't really goodbye. She returned in 2024, performing again in Australia and New Zealand. Her fans just couldn't let her go, and truthfully, neither could she. Beyond the stage, Gladys also gave back. In 2017, she helped raise $4 million for the Children's Learning Centers of Fairfield County. She knew the value of lifting others up because she had been lifted too. She had fought through addiction, heartbreak, and betrayal, and still managed to stand strong. In 2022, her journey came full circle when she received the Kennedy Center Honors, one of America's highest cultural awards. Standing beside President Joe Biden, she was recognized not just for her voice, but for her spirit. She had become more than a singer. She was a symbol of resilience, grace, and lasting influence. What are your thoughts on Gladys Knight's incredible journey with the Pips? From family beginnings to worldwide fame and everything in between. Share your thoughts in the comments.